May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Okay, so because we had a synod yesterday, and I invite Laurence to come forward first, and then Stephanie, and then if there's any time left, I will continue.
I'll try to leave you some time. In our prayers for the people, one often hears of the Diocese of Jerusalem. It seems like a faraway, remote place. It was therefore a pleasant surprise to find that Jerusalem had appeared in Ottawa at Synod last Friday morning in the form of none other than the Bishop of Jerusalem himself, one Suhail Dawani, and his wife Shadeka. I'll just review a few of the points that he made. To begin with, he noted that the Arab Christian population of the Middle East has roots going back to the 1st century. However, things have not been that good in recent times, as he noted that in 1900, there were some 20% of the population were Christian. Today, they're down to 5%. However, despite their numbers, some 7,000 Anglicans spread across 5 countries do great works promoting tolerance and peaceful coexistence. Specifically, the diocese runs schools, medical clinics, 2 hospitals, and several hospitality centers. The really interesting point concerning these is that they are all multi-faith. In other words, Muslims, Jewish, and Christians alike are involved. The schools, for example, have a population of 6,400 kids. And significant amongst that is the fact that a lot of those are Muslim. And this is because if you want to get a good job, you should have an education. The Muslims have no place to go, or have no other alternatives. Back in 2002, when he was still a priest in the diocese, the bishop started a Kids for Peace initiative. He put together a gathering of Muslim, Jewish, and Christian kids and got them sent off to Texas so that they could study together. He was chastised on all sides for such a crazy idea. And he said in the first few days, those kids wouldn't talk to each other. But at the end of a few weeks of studying, they all became good buddies, and the barriers of religion evaporated. The really good news about this is that the program continues today. And those kids, some of those early kids have now grown up. They are young adults, becoming leaders in their communities, and they're maintaining those relationships that they started back there on that program. The bishop has also started a dialogue for peace with Jewish and Muslim leaders. His main point is that people need to talk and establish interfaith relationships if there's to be any hope for peace in the Middle East. These things, of course, are not easy, and they require tolerance. As an unintended example, he happened to be commenting on a particular point in his program when he stopped to say that actually his wife doesn't even agree with him on this point. The whole assembly broke out in laughter. As a demonstration of the importance of the relationships, Shadeka, his wife Shadeka, and the Bishop John's wife Catherine, I was worried about that, spoke for a few minutes and announced that they've come up with an initiative to have a women's exchange visit between Jerusalem and Ottawa. Both bishops immediately seconded this idea. It's scheduled for sometime in 2015, and I'll just say for now, watch this space. Most people consider that religion is the reason that there's so many troubles in the Middle East. Bishop Suhail's belief is that religion must not be seen as a part of the problem, but rather as a part of the solution. For myself, and Anglicans maybe aren't supposed to admit this, but I must say it caused me to have a small twinge of pride to learn that the Anglicans of Jerusalem are such a force in the promotion of peace. Go Anglicans!
Well, as Laurence so well put, we've learned a lot about our partnered diocese in Jerusalem. We also discussed a lot of things back home here in Canada, such as the Charter of Quebec Values that is being proposed in Quebec. So Synod put forward a motion concerning this charter, and it was unanimously voted in favor of the motion to express the dismay and profound concerns with its implications for religious freedom. A result of this motion is that our bishop will be raising these concerns at the upcoming House of Bishops meeting, which is to take place in Quebec City. So the concerns of the diocese with regards to the situation in Quebec were discussed, and they're going to be brought forward to a larger platform. So that is good news. We also discussed things here within the diocese specifically. I took part in a seminar that was run by the Diocesan Task Force on Risk Management. Now, for most of you, that probably doesn't sound very exciting, but as your warden, I was actually really thankful to be a part of that team. We discussed things ranging from health and safety to property to finances, everything in between. And the diocese is actually working on a small package to provide to all parishes with guidelines and structures that would be standardized for how to best manage risk within the parish. So I have that, and upon reviewing it, I'm happy to report we are doing great. Almost everything on that checklist we are doing. I will be reviewing it further with corporation, and we will be sending our feedback to the diocese. So if you have any questions on any of these things, please see me after. Thanks.
All right, how much time we got left here? Okay. Just to respond to some of the stuff. Thank you both for Synod is it's a great time, and there's so much stuff, but these are long days, and both Laurence and Stephanie were really attentive and incredibly diligent members of your parish there, and I think it's evidenced by their remarks this morning. I was going to mention I can't resist briefly piggybacking off what Laurence was saying about Jerusalem. This is a really exciting relationship. There's a lot of opportunities that we're going to have. There's so many Christians, I think, want at some point in our lives to go to the Holy Land. And there's a lot of extraordinary opportunities partnering with the Anglican Diocese in Jerusalem to do something like that. There's a seminary that they run as well called St. George's College, and it's the Anglican Church, right? So the cathedral looks like an Anglican cathedral. And a lot of the hymns they sing are hymns in Arabic. And they have phenomenal courses. One of the courses that I might be taking at some point in the future is a course called Jesus of Palestine, where you travel throughout the Holy Land and see all the places where Jesus went. But that's open to everybody, and they run these courses throughout the whole year from January to December. There's another course that's a bit more expensive that goes into Turkey, and you go through the journeys of Paul. So that's a great opportunity. But somebody else I was at the Jerusalem seminar, and somebody said, well, because if you have a medical profession of some kind, if you're a physiotherapist, if you're a nurse or a doctor, there's always opportunities to go and partner with one of the Anglican hospitals and donate some time and get to see the Holy Land, and they can show you around. And so there's phenomenal opportunities if you have those kinds of if you have one of those jobs. But many of us do not. And somebody said, I don't have any useful skills whatsoever. I want to go, but I don't want to feel like a tourist or like I don't have anything to offer. And the Bishop of Jerusalem's response, which I really liked, was he said, the most important thing is to form relationships with us, to get to know us, and to return back to Canada and tell the stories of all the things that you've seen and heard and done, and all of our stories. And that's the most powerful thing that you can bring back is those relationships and those stories. So I found that very powerful, because there are a lot of us with, we all have skills. But, we don't have, anyways, if you have no skills, I have dubious skills. This is unfortunately my skill, whatever that is. So for those of us with no skills, we're still welcome to go there. And I really would encourage you to check that out and talk to me about that. And the only other thing I wanted to mention was the bishop's charge, which you can get online, and one of the themes was about challenge and hope, and one of the topics that he addressed was issues of poverty throughout the world, our responsibilities as Canadians. We have this sort of tendency as Canadians to assume that everybody likes us because we're friendly. But of course, every first world country have adorable stereotypes. Germans make great cars and are really organized, and Americans love really large portions in the restaurants, and Paris is amazing. But for 80% of the world, 80% of the world live on less than $10 a day. And half the world, which is over 3 billion people, live on less than $2.50 a day. And for those people, we aren't really an adorable country that's really super friendly, but we're rather one of the power brokers that has all the power and all the wealth and all the technology in the world. And it is a very uncomfortable position to be in as a country. And so the Bishop of Ottawa preached in his charge, how do you feel? And I'm saying this all wrong. This is what happens when I say things off the cuff here. I'll read the quote that he said. He said, "How do you feel about the fact that millions upon millions of people throughout the world hate you? They hate you not because of who you are, they don't know you, but because of where you live and how you live. 2/3 of the world's population do not live as you do." We have a responsibility, not just as Christians, but as Canadians, to be very responsible as a nation, as Christians in a nation where great poverty throughout the world can be very, very good for our economy and poses no national security risk. There's a lot of great poverty in the world that is good for us as Canadians and very bad for us as Christians. The Galilee of this world is not Canada. It is a part of the world where people live on less than $2.50 a day. If Jesus was to return in the same fashion that he came the first time, he would arrive nowhere near Canada, and he would be living in poverty and might be very ill at a very young age. We have a powerful responsibility as Christians to seek out Jesus internationally in a way that we will not seek out Jesus as Canadians and as consumers. And the second point that we encountered at the end of Friday was a doctor, Jeffrey Turnbull, who works with the homeless in Ottawa, and he said among the homeless community and among people with serious mental illness, all of our really amazing stats that we have about mortality rates and health and all these things, they drop to those same statistics as those people living in these impoverished countries. Our mortality rates drop. I think we went from 81 to 82 average age, I think, for Canadians, average mortality. That drops by 20 to 62 among our homeless and among people suffering with alcoholism and serious mental illness. We have people living in Ottawa who are effectively living the life of a third world citizen. So when we are seeking out Jesus, we should be mindful as Canadians, as citizens, as people, internationally and as citizens of Ottawa, where would Christ be? And if Jesus was here in this room and we all agreed to follow Jesus, where would he be going after the service? What kind of meal would he have after this service? Who would be his friends? And do we have the courage to follow him?